Hey guys, I am back with the Pig Daily episode number 107, and today we are going to be looking at another Zerg vs Zerg replay up against Scarlet from the OSC Championship on the weekend. So let's dive straight into game. Now in this game, guys, the main focuses in today's daily, it is another relatively short one as we are just looking at this one game. You can see it's a 14-minute game. We're going to look through the whole replay, but what we're really focusing on in terms of the theory talk is just the first few minutes. So up here in the top right, oink oink, we've got me, Piggy. And down here in the bottom left-hand side, our other Zerg player, it is Teams of Experts, Scarlet. Of course, these VODs are a bit of a humble brag for me. I'm very, very proud to take some maps off Scarlet. I count Scarlet as a friend, someone who I love to always talk strategy with her at events, and she's someone who I learned a lot about the game from as well. So it's always a pleasure to sneak a map off her when she's been up all night playing Nation Wars and is tired as all hell. So I actually took 2 maps off her. We went to game 5 of a best of 5. It was pretty fun. But anyway, this game, there's 2 things I wanted to talk about. So Overlord vision, it is quite late at night when I'm recording this, so I'm like a little bit loopy. I'm just like talking in circles. I want to talk about Overlord vision and defending big speedling attacks early on, and potentially also talking about, defending one base Ling Bang just a little bit, but it's kind of a carryover of the same points. So those are the main things. Notice Scarlet's going for a 14 gas, 13 pool expand build. With this build, her real goal is to try and kill your expansion, or a hell of a lot of drones. She wants to do something to equalize. Now, first thing to do with Overlord vision, if you ever want to do a rush, same as in my previous slow Zergling all-in, you want to avoid your opponent's vision. So, of course, in that previous build order, you didn't bother with the first 10 Zerglings, but you'd then snipe down those Overlords to push back the vision, so that you could get across the map. In this case, we see Scarlet specifically dodging around my Overlord vision and going around the edge of the map. So, of course, first thing there, pretty obvious, dodge vision when you're doing all-ins whenever possible. This is why we see people sending out Queens or Ravagers ahead of a push to snipe down the vision so their opponent doesn't know what's coming their way. Of course, we are going to see this come in now, and we're going to see me go into panic mode. How the hell am I going to defend this? I've just seen it right now. I've gone hatch gas pool. All I've got right now is a Queen and 2 Zerglings. I'm instantly starting 4 more Zerglings. Queen at my natural is about to pop. Now, notice the decision making here, guys. It's all about preserving my fighting units and getting enough of them together, protecting my production, so that I can continue to build them and then overwhelm. Because I've got more than 10 more drones, or about 10 more drones than Scarlet. I've got 2 hatcheries. I've got 2 Queens about to be up. If I can just get everything together for a little bit and kind of survive the first 10 or 20 seconds of her being in a, oh my god, I'm so scared position, then that's going to work out very well. So notice, first thing I do, grab all the drones, mineral walk those up into that main base. Second thing, I did choose to inject there, but I'm actually going to say, oh shit, I need to protect my Queen. Notice I immediately go out of the mineral line and say, let's go fight. I need to not just protect this Queen in this mineral line, but preferably I want to get down there and I want to protect this production as well, and hopefully hold this ramp. So notice I've pulled about 9 or 10 drones and I'm moving them down here, and immediately when this Queen popped out, I've run her into this little nook and put her on a hold position. And look at this, she is going to take so much damage to kill that Queen. Those Zerglings take forever to take her down. And remember, every Zergling here is valuable. A lot of people, I feel like this is another point, right? A lot of people throw their arms up in the air in this situation. They go, how do I possibly beat this? It's definitely like, whoa, there's fast, hard-hitting units running around your base. But you've also got to remember, your opponent has so much less production than you. Every unit you kill is so valuable. Of course, letting her up my ramp does kind of suck, but this is where a simple split is all you need to do. First of all, basic maneuver. Whenever your opponent runs Zerglings into your mineral line, you grab that half, you click them on that mineral patch. If she chases this deep, I'll simply mineral walk to the other side of the mineral line, and when I'm on top of the Zerglings, A-move and surround them. And of course, if this many Zerglings get surrounded by drones, they'll go down almost instantly, especially with as bruised as they are. But check this out. I chased with some Zerglings, and the other units I actually kept on that ramp. I do let them get a little bit spread out here, but notice, always fighting on the ramp. And this is something we're going to see as the big theme. Whenever you're dealing with speedling attacks, it's all about surface area, guys. Choke points, Remember, that's what a nook and, that's what this little corner is. That's a choke point. These are the areas you want to hold, because if they can get us around on you, they get the surface area. And that's what it's all about. Basically, Zerglings are a whole bunch of very excited creatures that want to get their hands on stuff. Like, they're like a bunch of real perverted weirdos that are like, oh, just let me touch you. And basically, your job is to be the anti-pervert police and just be like, no, get your guys holding shields like in like a phalanx formation or some shit. Get your drones in there, conscript everybody, and stop the Zerglings getting their touch up on, because they're filthy fuckers. And if you let them just feel you up, all your guys will die. But notice here, only a few of them can fight. A lot of them running around in the back. This is something we'll see all the time in these sort of engagements. I could turn health bars off to make things a little bit more obvious, but actually health bars are pretty awesome. Screw that, that's fine. So anyway, I pull back weakened drones as well. Whenever drones are getting isolated or focused down, I just mineral walk them back into the base. And notice I'll go down to defend the hatchery, but I should pull back to the ramp. Pull back to the ramp. Always pull back to the ramp. Once I get a few more units up, I can hold this choke point as well. But never move out into the open. Never just leave your units sitting out there. You do that, you're going to have a really bad day. So it's all about just making use of surface area. Drones are kind of like temporary. These are like your body blockers. You guys are into like American football or some shit like that. I don't even know how that sport works, but I know there's like the big guys that just like block the other dudes. That's what your drones kind of serve as. You can even use them on hold position, so that the enemy units won't even attack them, because they don't have any threat level, so their aggro is much lower than anything else. So if you hold position your drones like in a fight and they're kind of blocking up a lot of the surface area, that can also kind of funnel your opponent's units, so they're all like, oh, kind of trying to get their way through. Very important to limit that. Now, we are going to focus on what Scarlet's doing here. She's just sniped down an Overlord here. So guys, we might as well talk about that Overlord vision. I said I wanted to talk about it today. Why was my Overlord chilling down here? Because I'm a lazy piece of shit who was busy defending her rush. So, let's talk about Overlord vision in Zerg vs. Zerg 101. Number one area you need vision of in Zerg vs. Zerg at all times is right outside your opponent's base. She's got an Overlord there, I've got an Overlord there. However, you don't want your Overlord so close that they can come out and snipe it, which is why normally you use two Overlords. Your first two Overlords in Zerg vs. Zerg will always end up one here or one here. Now what this does is it watches both exits to the main base. Almost every map is kind of formed in this way, where there's two directions your opponent can travel from out of their main base. It'll also watch for drones heading towards that third base to see when that third goes down. And they're far enough back that a queen, if it wants to come out and chase them away, it's going to have to come out very far. And even if they chase off one Overlord, your other Overlord can say move in to compensate. So this is something which is super important. I cannot stress enough how many games have been lost, even in pro games, because people's Overlords weren't in the proper position, or they were a bit too far forward and the enemy sniped them down. Now, the next most important thing you need to focus on with Overlord vision is outside your base. Notice here, because you need to see which angle units are coming in from, how many units are coming in. You need to see if your opponent morphs banelings outside your base. Super important to see outside your base. Finally, having an Overlord or two across the middle of the map is also very helpful to see where the unit movements are happening on the map. But that's something where it's not as important. So your first two Overlords go outside their base. Your third Overlord sits outside your base. And that is the recipe to not dying to stupid shit in Zerg vs. Zerg. I guarantee you. Now, right now, because my Overlord got sniped, I saw some extra Zerglings, but not that many. So I do something here where I say, well, shit, I don't have map vision. Let's send 6 Zerglings on to counterattack. Now, unfortunately, the Overlord of hers did actually see what I was up to. But these Zerglings are just going to rally down around. They're going to try and see what's going on. And I'm just building more Zerglings for the moment at this point. And once again, we are going to see me have to use the choke point once more, because check it out. She's actually going all in. She's still on 14 drones. I had no idea. I'd started droning up. See, I'm droning up to 20 workers and dropping a baneling nest. My Zerglings are skirmishing with hers, because I felt like I was ahead, right? So I was like, doop-de-doop, you're probably droning now. Let's go out and fight you. And then I was like, oh shit, that's a lot of Zerglings. And I saw more Zerglings coming out. So these Zerglings, I pulled them away from the Queen, and then I A-moved them to just kind of intercept reinforcements a bit. They will eventually overwhelm the Queen as well. And once again, choke point, guys. Hold the choke. So notice a lot of her Zerglings just running around in the back, not getting surface area. I guarantee you, if half of her Zerglings split around the left immediately, She would have got a full surround and just won the game right here. Because I slowed that down, I actually killed most of her Zerglings. These Zerglings were still doing damage back in her base. And I've actually got so many Lings popping out and a Baneling Nest about to finish that I'm actually going to hang on. Isn't that cool, guys? Surface area. And if Scarlet makes those mistakes, I guarantee you, because I know there's people saying, oh, but I can't micro as fast as you. I can't necessarily do it as well as you. I guarantee you, if Scarlet makes these mistakes, and I've seen all the pro players make these mistakes. No one plays a perfect game of StarCraft. I guarantee if you're playing in Master League, your opponent's going to make 1,000 times more mistakes. If you're playing in Diamond League, 1,000,000 more mistakes. If you're playing in Platinum League, 1,000,000,000 more mistakes, and so on and so forth. So trust me, if you start to just do 1 or 2 of these things every time you get rushed, bam, get the queen in the little nook and cranny between the minerals, go and do that, you're going to start defending these things more and more, and you're going to actually be in a really good spot. Now, I know while we just watch kind of me start to defend this push, I don't really have much more to say about it. I'm just building Zerglings and defending. What if this was a Ling Bane attack that Scarlet hit with? Keep in mind, it's always a different scenario. You've got to understand the position your opponent's coming from. In this scenario, Scarlet was not going as all in as possible. It wasn't a 13-12. It was a 14-13. Yes, one more drone does make a difference on such low economy. And because she didn't go for a Baneling Nest, she's actually been able to get that hatchery down very quickly behind this. So she's got a real potential economic transition from this. Whereas someone who opens up Ling Bane on one base, oh man, that economic transition is so slowed down because it's not just the cost of the Baneling Nest, it's the cost of the Banelings and the cost of mining all that gas and you know, building the building that extractor earlier on. So yeah, Ling Bane is much more all in. Now if they come and morph Banelings in your base, like here, with that first rush, you can usually still just overwhelm it with your slow Zerglings, your queen, your drones. You can still pull and fight. However, otherwise, you can usually abandon your natural if they, you know, morph the Banelings further back, try and get spines and queens up, clog the gaps in your main, all about, once again, limiting surface area, and with Banelings just hopefully just completely blocking them and getting up spines and queens. So that can make a really big difference. One thing I do want to point out as well, guys, is depending on how you prefer to play it, and I've seen people do this at pro level occasionally, you can actually pull off gas when you first see any sort of rush coming in and say, you know what, the first stages of the rush are the most important. We'll go back and take a glance there and then we'll zoom up to this point. So when you're first dealing with the rush rate, right about 2 minutes 30 when she comes in. 2 minutes 30, by the way, guys, is when Ling Speed finishes with 1 base builds. So if we go to 2 minutes 30, let's take a look. Yep, right around when Zergling Speed's finishing up for her, just after 2:30. So I should have pulled off, I normally like to pull off gas against these builds because I don't like to build a Baneling Nest. Notice how my full focus is on building extra queens, extra Zerglings, and using drones to fight. And that way, because I've got more mineral income, normally I would pull off gas here. This is just a mistake this game. And that would give me the ability to rebuild my drones, which would be amazing. Because I can rebuild drones I lose, I can afford to overbuild Zerglings a little bit. It just gives you a little bit more room for safety. And you can do things like build spine crawlers without worrying as much about the cost. If you're mining gas, you can't afford to build spine crawlers and a Baneling Nest and queens and Zerglings and lose drones. It's too many different things you're spending money on. In a point in the game that's so early on you can't afford all those things. So limiting your focus and being really kind of tight in terms of like, I'm just focusing on X, I'm just focusing on minerals, or I'm just focusing on gas, is one of the most helpful things as a StarCraft player. It's so good in these sort of holding situations. So I just wanted to mention that before I go through the rest of the game. So guys, hopefully you're enjoying hearing about Overlord vision and defending rushes. Now I'm literally just going to talk you guys through the rest of the game because there's not that much else to talk about here. And I do want to flesh out this daily a bit. And it's a fun game and it's a bit of a humble brag. So let's take a look. I've defended her rush. I start counterattacking across the map with Ling Bane. And this is where things are going to get quite interesting. So she starts splitting off some Zerglings, trying to kind of screw with my multitasking a little bit, that sort of thing. She actually gets on a Baneling there and she will be able to target that down. At the same time, my Zerglings dive on in, but she's building a lot of Lings herself. I am mixing in drones behind this. I'm also building an extra queen at home and morphing more Banelings. Right now, I'm in the mindset of if I keep attacking, I should be able to overwhelm her. But, or at least kind of, you know, attack, build drones, and she'll never be able to use this natural expansion. And that's kind of correct, but there's a few points here where I do overcommit a little bit, because I'm so used to playing players that aren't as good as Scarlet, where I'm like, oh, in this situation, you'll screw up and lose everything. But she doesn't actually do that, and she does great micro here, traps a lot of my Zerglings. Fantastic defense. Behind this, she's droned up quite a bit. She can start transferring workers down to that natural, and she actually pushes me back on an equal worker count. Luckily for me, she's not watching. Takes a horrid Baneling hit. Oh! Terrible, terrible damage. And that allows me to put more pressure on. So even though I'm down on drones, there's so much potential to just suddenly run in and kill all her shit. I'm going to grab a drone, denying even more mining time. Probably, maybe should have stayed focusing that queen, because those enemy Zerglings had so much surface area on me, it just felt a little bit uncomfortable. Scarlet does only have 2 queens, so killing one there does limit her production. So even though I'm down on drones, I am getting a 3rd base behind this, right? So in a way, this aggression is kind of working out. And keep in mind, if I screw up, I lose a bit of the initiative. I lose some of my army advantage. If Scarlet screws up, she loses a whole lot of economy. So this is the power of aggression in Zerg vs. Zerg. It's one of the most powerful things in the matchup. But at this point, I see a Spine, I see a lot of Banelings, and I realize, oh, I can't fight this anymore. I'll just take trades where I can. Notice I'm just trying to, you know, see if I can grab a good trade here or there. Gonna run in, see if I can snipe off a drone or two, but just great pulls by her, and great focus fire as well. 4 drones on ready at points from that Baneling, but very few actually going down. And from here, we can kind of fast forward on. We actually see an interesting dynamic where, notice I do always make safety Banelings at home to defend against a counter. I want to maintain Ling Bane on the map, and you kind of have to do that if you don't invest in defense. So this is a cool little situation where you get to see the difference in our approaches. Scarlet has gone for an anchor, 3 queens and a spine. So 2 extra queens, 1 extra queen. So she's got 2 queens at the front and the spine. That combined with Baneling zoning around it is unbreakable by Ling Bane unless I have a huge army advantage. On the other hand, I don't have that. I haven't invested in those static units because I'm playing a more mobile, aggressive style. I want all of my units to be capable of attacking. Of course, the downside with all of that... Oh, by the way, we gotta watch that. I had to do an instant rewind there because I think that was a pretty gruesome hit. But the reason thing is because I want to be able to... Oh, that's gross. Because I want to be able to be aggressive, I don't want to be building spines and queens. They can't attack. They don't help me in that way. So I want to be fully out on the map and controlling the map. If I suddenly just don't have any Zergling Baneling, Scarlet can run across and wreck me. Whereas I can't do the same to her. As long as she has a couple Banelings, the spine, and the 2 queens at the front, she's got an anchor to her defense. So she can afford to play more defensively. And we see her doing that here as she's taking up towards Mutalisks. She has noticed that I'm rallying roaches across, so she's massing spine crawlers here. She's pulled off 1 gas. She's putting down so many spines because she's got the extra 4 queens now, actually, I think. Oh, no, she's pulled the queen from the main, and she's specifically stopped injecting. Look at this clever decision from her. She's so good at defending Roach Baneling and Roach Ravager attacks. Just gets enough transfuse energy up on 2 of those queens. The 3rd one's going to have it in about 8 seconds. I mean, this is just fantastic defense, and the timing is great for it. Maybe I could have committed there. Because the Banelings were ready and she already had transfuses, it would have just been like 7 roaches fighting a spine crawler, 3 queens, and 8 Banelings, and would have been a bit messy. And she's actually defending incredibly well here. And I remember my heart started to sink a little bit, and I went, shit, I need to drone. I can't actually break her. I'm in so much trouble right now. Oh my god. But then I realized at this point that the hatchery was still on low hit points. So I tried to get drones at the same time as killing the hatchery. I only ended up getting 3. And then I click on the hatchery there, and I actually managed to just barely snipe it down. She only just got transfuse energy just after I sniped it. So the 1 transfuse wasn't enough to save the hatch. And even though that attack really didn't do as much as I wanted it to at first, getting the hatchery suddenly bounces Scarlet back to such a minuscule economy. She's got next to no mineral patches in the main, and I'm mining minerals on 3 bases. And you can see that reflected in that income tab. It's just insane. So let's fast forward through this next bit. She's going mutas. I know she's going mutas. Why else would she be holed up on 2 bases with mass spine, queen, Ling Bane, and no roaches? So I start to just kind of build spore crawlers at my bases. Let's see, where's my first spore crawler? In the 3rd, yeah. And I've also got extra queens on the way because I know I want some mobile anti-air. And I've already got 4 queens out. So my queens are going to come down. It's very important to connect your bases with creep. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Of course, you just want to drone up. You want to have only a few units to defend any potential zerglings they hit with the mutas. And you just want to drone. Whenever you're behind against mutas like this, you want to play the ground style. Go for upgrades, go for a Hydra Den, go for a big Roach Hydra push. You potentially can add infestors, but the most important thing is to secure a 4th base with any macro style, or if you're just going to push with Roach Hydra, you're not going to play into a big army. Don't click on the replay bar. Then your most important thing is to just make sure you actually hit hard and fast before your muta player can get out things like lurkers, before Scarlet could get out things like ultralisks, or something like that. Of course, that's why scouting is actually quite important. And you really do want to normally figure out if your opponent's going Ling Bane behind the mutas and going like heavy muta Ling Bane, which of course crushes a Roach Hydra push if they've got the right army numbers. Or are they teching up faster to things like lurkers, to things like ultras? If they go for the banelings, often waiting for the infestors is a good idea, because infestor fungal will wreck banelings very well. But if they're teching very fast and you wait for fungal, sometimes they get a chance to get out things like lurkers or ultras, and you won't really have the right answer to that with a Roach Hydra composition. So I am trying to get this creep towards my 4th base on the gold. Now notice I hid these roaches on the right hand side. Once again, I was super aware of Overlord vision, and I purposefully knew she was lacking vision on the map, so I sent these roaches down the right hand side, and I waited until the 3rd was finished so I could catch drones here. The mistake I made is I sent them in just as they came home. The mutalisk came home to kill this Overlord, and because of that they're going to be able to clean this up, and I can only waste mining time, which is not really worth that much. So I'm going to lose 5 roaches pretty much for free, no real significant damage. Going to get a single drone in there, which is a bit of a shame. So I should have waited not only until the 3rd was finished, but also until I saw those mutalisks poking around at my bases, and that would have given me the maximum amount of damage out of that counterattack. So if you think your opponent's being greedy, if you're not sure what their follow-up is, running in with a small counterattack that you've avoided their vision with can do massive damage potentially, and it has a good chance of getting information. In this case, I still wasn't sure what was going on. Because I knew that I was going to be way up in supply, I had a lot of confidence in the idea of just killing her with Roach Hydra, not waiting for fungal. Even if she went banelings, I figured just raw numbers of Roach Hydra should be able to overwhelm. And at this point, I'm thinking about starting to push. I'm adding more roaches and lings, but she comes in and finds this weak spot on the back of my base. And so this actually triggers me to say, screw it, let's go, let's push. My queens will be able to clean this up eventually. Just going to lose a few drones. And of course, the Hydralisks, their +1 finished, their range and movement speed finished. I do wait for the roaches to kind of get in front there, but then I realize there's just almost no units here. Dive in on top, go for the A move. Turns out she's gone almost pure mutalisk. She's doing some great transfusers, but +1 mutas versus +1 Hydras, and I've just got a massive army lead, so I do take it out in the end. GG's. GG. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at that little game. Bit of a humble brag, but honestly, I was looking at this game and I was like, what can I talk about in this game? I do think those Overlord vision points are so important, and I always coach and look and watch Diamond players, Platinum players, even occasionally Masters players who don't do this at all. So whether you're a Bronze player who's just starting out, whether you're in Master League, double check your Overlord patterns on every map. 2 Overlords outside their base, 1 outside your base, 1 or 2 in the middle of the map. Of course, also, really focus on choke points, limiting surface area. Whenever you're getting Zergling Rush, guys, remember, you guys are the anti-pervert. Please form your wall, hold the choke points, get in the nooks and crannies. Zerglings are just a horde of horny zombies. Don't let them feel you up. That's all for now, guys. Thanks for hanging out watching the daily. I love all of you. I am in China at the moment, so sorry for the pre-recorded content. There will be a few more things coming out. I'll be back in a few days streaming again. I'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to hug a watermelon, kick a walrus, and of course, punch a cactus to the moon. I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye and good night.